Welcome back to Christo's Cafe. We are doing something a little different today. Yesterday, Spessy and I cast the top 16 qualifiers and we had an absolute blast, but we had a little bit of an unsung hero, an underdog, if you will, only because we had never really heard of this player before, a Chinese player by the name of PorkBelly. And so newer player on the scene, had a really fun Reckless Flurry deck that I liked a lot. Really like this player's style of play as well, just jamming cards, keeping up with cams. They were able to actually go ahead, qualify for Open number 4 by winning the lower bracket. And one of the decks that they brought was this Reckless Flurry list that's not drastically different from what we had typically seen, but again, I was taken back by the style of play, the success that this player had, and decided I wanted to give this deck a go myself. I played a few games with it, I absolutely adored it, and figured why not come up with a video just kind of sharing the deck and a couple games with it. I know a lot of times some of the Chinese players don't get as much visibility, but I think that this player, PorkBelly, is going to be one of my new favorites going into Gwent Open number 4. So let's talk a little bit about the deck. I've recorded a couple games as well to just kind of walk you through it. If you want to watch the OG, if you want to watch PorkBelly play this deck themselves, Spessy is going to put out a video of our cast in the next couple of days, so you should be able to find it on his YouTube channel. I will link it below as well. But I had a blast playing this. Again, it's very similar in the way of some of the older Reckless Flurry control lists you see, but it's got a few little tweaks in it that honestly probably typically makes it a little bit better on the tournament scene. On ladder, it has worked very well for me. Nonetheless, I think I've lost one game out of the 10 or so I have played. So Mask of Ouroboros, that's because we have a full discard package in here. And by full, I mean full. We have Berna, we have Coral, we have Morkvarg, we have 2 Skulls, and we have 2 Skirmishers. So when you do draw all of your discard cards, you are going to thin down to 2 cards, and that will give you access to your full deck as you need it. We've got the Wanderers on top. Again, the discard package synergizes really well with the Wanderers because you can kind of go through and make sure you're drawing cards to the right, discarding cards to the left, so you have that flexibility. Heat Waves, some pretty standard control you will see. The Totem that you've got here is, again, good proactivity because it's a little bit limited, but you can jam the Totem. You can also, with the amount of artifacts in this deck, use Bearification on it. Yes, I'm jumping ahead, but this right here is, I keep doing that. Let's put that back in the deck. How about that? But Bearification is one of the fun little things that you don't see every day, but it kind of came in and people were looking at it like it was a bit silly. Like, do we turn Masquerade Ball into a bear? Well, you can. You can save your Heat Wave and use this on Bearification. You'll likely be using it on your own, either Megascope, on your Heron Kadooch, or your Totem, Heron Kaduk, whatever. We've got Axie in here for reset. It is great flexibility because it works on your own units as well, so you don't just have to switch around your opponent's Wanderers. You can actually do it and boost, let's say, one of your Bear Witchers back up to 8 or something of that nature. So again, it gives you flexibility, also answers a defender, which is key here. That way you can use your Heat Wave for something like Full Test that's tucked behind the defender. So again, the flexibility in this deck is key, and you're going to see a lot of these tools doing that. We have Hjalmar in here. Hjalmar, even though we do not have any great swords, that's perfectly fine because you're packing 2 Raging Bears, 2 Bear Witchers with the discard package. One is bound to end up in your graveyard pretty early, whether that's through play or through discard. So you'll always have a target for Hjalmar. Geralt Quen, 99% of the time you're grabbing one of those Bear Witchers. Keep in mind you need a Bear Witcher or a Witcher in general in your deck. There is not a lot of them in here. You're going to have Axie and you're going to have your 2 Bear Witchers, and that's it. So when you're drawing and discarding, keep in mind Sunset Wanderers draws you a card as well, so you have to balance that out to make sure you keep a Bear Witcher in your deck. Using something like Maxi and selecting a Bear Witcher and putting it all the way at the bottom is not a terrible strategy here. Heron is in there, generates you a few different options, to be honest. You've got your Bear Witcher. You can also use a Quartermaster as a bit more of a proactive play. I've done that before. It's a nice option. The Quartermaster also gives you Witcher Students, which synergizes nicely with Trial of the Grasses. It's not a card you see very often. It sets a unit's power to 12, and if it's not a Witcher, damage it by 6 first. But again, for the most part, you're going to be playing this on a Witcher. You can play it on Quen, you can play it on your Bear Witcher, you can play it on your students. You're probably wanting to do it on Quen or a student because that's what's going to give you the most boost. But don't forget, if it's not a Witcher, you damage it by 6. This literally can be a 6 damage card if played on your opponent's side of the board. Marjoram, in a similar sense, where it does 3 damage first, can wipe something off. So keep this in mind. I think I've used it to do damage more so than I have to actually heal my own side or to boost my own side. So keep that in mind. We've got the discard package here. Save your lemons. This is one of those probably tournament meta cards that you want to use more often, but it has come in handy. It's a squirrel on steroids, I believe Spessy called it. But you can get rid of some of those echo cards. So if you're tired of seeing Amphibious Assault, you can go ahead and remove it. If you're playing against any kind of Mamunalist, you can go through their graveyard and start removing some things. You do have quite a bit of flexibility again with this card to go clean some things up. Worst case scenario, it's a 6 for 6, so it always feels kind of nice from that perspective. You've got Maxi here. It is important to organize your draws just a little bit. You can brick Quen with your drawing and discard package. You want to make sure that things are nice and clean. So Maxi gives you the opportunity to look, check, or shuffle. Raging Bear. First card out plays for 8, right? Because you have nothing on board to damage, just plays for 8. 8 for 5 provisions is fantastic and gives you that additional proactivity that you're often lacking in SK. So that's great. Bear Witcher, we talked about a few times. You've got that gutting slash for some damage and a bit of removal. The Mega Scope, which are going to target your bear or your Bear Witcher. Both are an option here to spit out 8 points for a 4, which is nice. And you've got your Heyme and your Skirmisher for your drawing and your discarding. This might feel like a little bit less of a control or heavy control list that we have seen in the past with Flurry, but in this situation, honestly, it gives you so much flexibility. You can do so many different things with the list, and that is why I think it is absolutely key. These are some of my favorite styles of play. It's kind of got a bit of a mid-range vibe, a little bit less proactivity than you typically see in mid-range, but it has the ability to do what you need in the situation you need it in. And that is why I very much enjoyed playing this list. We've got 2 games up for you. We're going to do a pseudo mirror matchup. It's a bit more of a game against SK Witchers. And then the second game is against Northern Realms. I think that was actually potentially another list from the top 16 that Cams had brought. So we've got a couple games for you to see how the deck works. Like I said, you can also check out Spessy's YouTube in the coming days. That will have the gameplay of PorkBelly actually using this deck themselves. If you are enjoying this style and maybe want me to dissect some of the top 16 decks or things like that, let me know in the comments. Hit subscribe if you do like it, and the like button as well, and that will give me some indication that you're enjoying this and I can put out more similar content. All right, let's get into a couple of games. I had so much fun casting this deck. There's just so many fun little tweaks and fun little quirks to it that I am pumped to play this out now. And we'll end up in a mirror matchup. Phenomenal. A mirror matchup on blue. If you did catch the cast yesterday, we talked about how much of a pain in the butt it is to be on blue in this mirror. So I usually like kicking the Bear Witcher, knowing that I want to grab one with Quen later on in life. There's a distinct possibility this Reckless Flurry list could also be playing Wanderers, so Axie is going to be nice. I don't think the Gunning Slash is that important. Megascope is going to be a bit of a brick because we have not found a bear, which is essentially what you want to be doing. You want to be grabbing the Elder Bear. So by Elder Bear, I mean Raging Bear, sorry. We're going to start this whole deal with Maxi. Let's see what we got going on here. Coral and Burner are down here. Coral would have been nice to grab earlier. These aren't exactly what we want, though. The Heat Wave would be okay. I think I'm going to throw this back. I'm going to put a Bear Witcher on the bottom because I want to have the ability to feel good about keeping it there to grab with Quen a little bit later on. I wasn't quite paying attention. I don't think I saw the Sunset Wanderers bounce over, so we might feel okay about that. Again, in this mirror, you have to be careful because these can easily eat like an Axie potentially or a Morkvarg when you are playing against Skellige, so it can be a little bit awkward. So you want to make sure you protect that. This, I guess, is going to be more of a traditional SK list, so I'd expect Hjalmar instead. Not much for us to do other than play Scald on the proper row. The row locking is somewhat questionable, so we'll take a second to avoid that. I think I'll probably just do it again. And verification is not what I wanted either. So not grabbing coral here feels a little bit bad, but we're going to do all of our thinning essentially, or a lot of our thinning. Yeah, there's Megascope. We had no way of answering that, so it doesn't really make that big a difference. There's a gutting slash that not particularly helpful, but we got points on the board. We got our leader fully intact. Still got a good amount of space for the Wanderers to roll. Another Megascope. That's going to put us 1 point up, right, if we pass here. I think to play it safe, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Force them to play one more card. It's less than ideal, but we did a bunch of thinning, so hopefully we'll get access to some of our better stuff, and that'll give us more flexibility down the road. So this is Witchers. That is pre-adrenaline, though. So that, I don't know if that was a misplay or their hand is just that good that this seemed like a good idea. Not entirely sure about that. Burn is going to be nice. Coral is going to be fine. We'll get rid of probably one of the gunning slashes then. The challenge with Burn is we will have to discard 2 cards, which feels a little bit worse. The Heat Wave is actually going to be nice. We did see both Megascopes, which is good, which means if another Greatsword survives, it's not the end of the world. But our hand is looking mighty fine, which is a little bit scary if we do have to discard cards, because our deck actually feels pretty good too. And we will want to be discarding with Coral. So Xavier Lemons in this situation, we would have to kill 3 Greatswords for this to be worthwhile, for the Hjalmar to be less valuable. I don't know if it's worthwhile. Maybe it is. Let's try forcing an answer out of him. I kind of want to play Coral next, because if we end up with something like a Hjalmar and a Gutting Slash, okay, that's fine, I think. And clicking makes me feel a lot better about Coral as well.
I can do a great deal more for you.
Megascope will be discarded next turn when we play Burna. Because this is his opportunity to pass and we'll still stay ahead. So this is an interesting setup.
Stand before the Queen of Skellige.
That plays 4. We're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'd like to discard things before, but I think, I mean, Verification is an option. Plays for 10 though. Feels pretty decent to have in hand. We can drop that with this. I'm thinking these two go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Which means we can't really verify anything for a little while. Maybe Verification is the right option to get rid of. We can still play the Raging Bird. We do need something in graveyard for Hjalmar anyway. I think that's just too slow. Maybe we do that. Ah. Mr. Opponent played that very smart. So that was my bad here. I absolutely should have been in a situation where I did not allow that to happen. So I should have kept 1 additional card. I should have gotten rid of Verification in this situation, so that I would in fact have the ability to I would in fact have the ability to keep Wanderers, because that would have made a huge difference here. We have the Witcher and we have the Totem, so we take 1 mulligan. Now we're all set. The Witcher stays in there, and we can pull it through Quen. So that's good news. We have the Totem for some proactivity. We have a Gunning Slash to respond to whatever they drop. We click the Totem. We can verify it. It feels okay, especially with full leader charges. So let's see how this rolls. I think we have 1 Gutting Slash. There's a chance there's a second one, but with 9 cards left in deck, maybe not. That's why drawing and the location your stuff is in is very, very, very important. Feels like a bit of a no-brainer here. Possibly leaving these guys up would have been okay as well for the bear, yeah, to prevent the leader charges from happening would have been okay. We could technically Trial of the Grasses. It doesn't feel great, so I think this is okay at this point. Knowing that we still have the Heat Wave as a deletion option, the Trial of the Grasses as well. As long as their board is clear, we know where the Reckless Flurry pings are going as well. Gives us the flexibility. The Axie may, at the end of the day, end up being what we just use for Bear Abomination, for example, and return it. So there's a few options around that. I don't really care if that stays, right? So that's our other proactive play. Opportunity to drop Heron as well. Because we can drop Heron now and potentially cover one of these. That's an Axie option for 4. I'm wondering if, because we could always go, no, the Quartermaster doesn't feel nearly as good.
What are you gonna do, huh?
So we'll do that. We still have the Bear Witcher off of the Quen as well if we'd like. Heatwave something. The Trial of the Grasses we can actually use on a Quen or something of that nature. Again, a slight concern about the ability to reset that, which might be a bit of a challenge, but otherwise we feel okay about it. All right, we're answering that.
I owe you for that.
No, thank you.
Let's get this over with.
I think we just go ahead. We'll clear that out. I'll take my healing. Again, we're not terribly concerned about the situation we're in. Heatwave the bear. If I don't want to boost, because I haven't seen Axie or Morkvarg, so there might be a situation where they try and boost this up, where they reset my bear. That plays for 4, that plays for 3, so bear's probably the target, so maybe the Trial of the Grasses doesn't feel quite as good.
Take care of your blades and they'll take care of you.
So again, thinking they might be considering the reset here. They played their Trial of the Grasses, right? Yeah, so they're not going to have one to set up. They have been playing Witchers, so actually killing a Witcher, for example, might not be the worst scenario here.
Any last words?
In fact, maybe we do this. Well, we kill a couple Witchers off, so that feels pretty decent. There's Axie. So based on that Axie coming down, I actually don't feel terrible doing this. They might be running a Heat Wave or something. Yeah. I think we were ahead, far enough ahead points-wise that being greedy about it wasn't that bad. Nothing big, but I can't imagine they find a way to put whatever the heck it is, 28 points on the board. They'll grab their own Quen, they'll grab their own Bear Witcher, they'll smack me a little bit, and we will be perfectly happy about it. Feels good. Again, part of this deck, the fun is the flexibility that you have, the different options that you have, and you can pretty much deal with whatever comes your way. All right, let's do this again. You may have noticed that I tanked the crap out of my MMR by trying to play SK Warriors, and it did not go well. Commandos.
Checkmate.
Maybe Commandos. Probably Commandos, actually. we've got the heat wave. We actually, this is a very viable option. Hjalmar's not a terrible option because we can coral draw and discard. So there's a few things here we can actually do based on this hand. I do actually like Xavier Lemons as well. I might move the Hearn. If they play something different, then maybe the Bear's okay. Is the Bear really ever okay? Heatwave Defender. We have discarded, let's say, this with Coral. That's actually theoretically a bit better. They're not playing Curse Scroll. I should have picked up on that. Knowing that there's a distinct possibility that I'm not actually going to see Commandos, but I'm still pretty happy with the hand we have.
I can do a great deal more for you.
Dropping that, we still have the opportunity to draw and discard 2. We will likely put the Bear Witcher in the grave so we can use it for an early Hjalmar if they do anything silly like Full Test. Wonder if we can get a duel out of them. I don't remember. I mean, granted, I just cast these games and I should have remembered, but I don't exactly remember what the deal was with the who was it that was playing this list? I think it was Cams actually was running this list. It was a dueling list. There it is. They do not like Coral. That means they will play Siege. Maybe they don't even play Siege.
You stand before the Queen of Skellige.
Well, that feels pretty darn nifty.
Nothing like some overseas plunder in spring.
Well, let us stay ahead.
No audiences. King's down today.
Hey, listen here. Listen well.
Probably don't need that. Would love for them to use AA because that would give me a chance to get lemons down. I don't have much of like a next proactive play, unfortunately. We could use Heron. Otherwise, kind of want to win this and bleed them, right? I don't want to go into a long round.
To arms, men.
These students are going to get a bit out of hand, I feel. And the envoy is really helping them to figure out kind of what's going on in life, which adds to the challenge. Wonder if I ever just play a naked Bear Witcher. I say naked as in it doesn't use its ability.
It's not for me.
We're in a situation where the Wanderers comes out next. So we were talking about Wanderers a bit during our cast yesterday. And the thing you have to pay attention to is the fact that your opponent can see this. So him playing one more card would have bought the Wanderers out, or I would have passed. Also a potential. This verification is actually really, really good. That's gonna mess with Shani. So we have quite a few nice options here, and a pretty decent deck as well. That messes with Shani. This bounces over. I think we can get rid of that. No, I don't want that either. Okay, well we're keeping the bear. Bear goes first. So we're likely gonna get our Wanderers out, which is fine. The Bear Witcher does need to theoretically stay in the deck to be able to be pulled by Quen, though Axie is theoretically an option as well. We do want to get Lemons out next and start picking off the students. There's AA, so we actually probably pick off AA first.
Not without good reason. The Queen is stern.
My pain serves a purpose.
My logic there is the fact that if he comes back with Shani, he's going to grab one of these anyway. or potentially has a way to answer this, and I'll only get one. If I only get one, AA is best. If he wants to play, let's say, Shani into this, ooh, the War Chariot. That War Chariot is quite nice in this scenario. I don't really want to banish a card from my graveyard, so I will not. We do have an 8 in there. I don't think it's worth it on this, to be honest. So let's verify that. Bounce this out. Another bear. So he'll use Baron. Drop the second bear there. And again, like, we're in a situation, we're just trying to draw out as many gold as we can. Like round 3 with a totem. Maybe the Trial of the Grasses feels okay. What's a full leader ability? So I'm waiting for him to drop an Anseus. If we can get Anseus out, we would be okay.
And it's all for me grog. Me noggy grog.
Don't actually need to get ahead, right? We just keep pushing them. I could have potentially yeeted that, maybe not.
I'll gladly help if I live to see it.
So Anseus and Varaxis, again, if I could see one of them, I'd be really, well, if I could see Anseus, I'd be really happy.
Samaria has yet to speak it.
Boiling oil is going to be enough.
Let's get this over with.
Axie's going to play for 11. They both play for the same amount. Axie will be maybe better, maybe not.
And consider it done.
Again, potential to use some pings. But I think we'll wait. Again, assumption would be, let's say Anseus Varaxis is the last 2 cards. And the question becomes, if I Heat Wave Varaxis, no, Gerhardt.
I could be your great-grandfather's great-grandfather.
If that's Varaxis, you get 4, 5, 6, 7. That's probably not enough here. It's not enough. So my logic here was the fact that if I did this and he had Varaxis without the Gerhardt on board, I was going to win. With the Anseus on board, well, I still won. So that was a good bleed anyway, because he would have had a Varaxis with nothing to do with it in round 3. Though thinking back, I might have wanted to work with Axie instead of the Bear Witcher just because of the Megascope left in my deck. So I might have incorrectly sequenced those last 2 cards, but I think overall it just goes to show that you have the ability to do a whole heck of a lot of things. And in this case, bleeding to 2-0 is well worth your time.
Oh, what a lovely tea party.